In this video, we are going to explore patterns, and we'll start by making a sketch. I think to explore a pattern, we could make something like a wheel, make like a simple wheel for like a, I don't know, toy car or something, whatever you want a wheel for. So I'm going to start with this big part here, which I'm going to basically make my wheel. I want a hole in the middle here to be for, yeah, I guess an axle, I suppose. You know, you can put a screw through there into whatever to attach your wheel to. But how about some details? Like, we know that wheels, they typically have like holes in their rims. I mean, the real life application of that is to help disc or drum brakes cool down quicker. But you know, at the same time, they could just look cool too. So, but let's just make it look cool. So I'm just gonna make a circle right here. How big do I want to make it? How about we make it just 10 millimeters? Okay. Now I want to make circles all around this just to make my wheel look pretty neat. So one easy way to do that is to make a pattern. So let's go over here, and there's two patterns to choose from. There's a circular pattern, there's a rectangular pattern. In this case, let's do a circular pattern because we want to go around the hub here. So it asks us to select an object, which, there we go, or objects. There's only one object right there. And select a center point. Here's our center point right here in the middle of the hub. And now it gives us options for distribution, suppression, quantity. I'm not quite sure what this suppression toggle here does. Okay, so it makes it so that you can pick and choose whether or not you want some of these to be actually in the pattern. But I want them to all be in the pattern, so let's do that. Kind of like with the revolve tool, it gives you some options, like there's full, there's partial, where you can move this slider here to adjust how many you want, and it's not symmetrical either, so that's different. Or yeah, distribute the pattern symmetrically. So let's see what happens when we do that. Yeah, I'm not really a fan of those. I'm sure there's an application for it, but not for this, what we're doing here. So let's see, how many do we want? We can adjust the quantity here. You could either type a number, or you know, just use the arrows here. You can use the arrows over here. Let's see here. How about we do 12 of these rim holes like that. Alright. I think they're a little small. Why don't we make them a little bigger? So I think by adjusting the size of this, let's make it like 15. We adjust the size of everything that's part of the pattern, about 20 millimeters. Okay, I think that's pretty good. If we want to make the design maybe a little more interesting, we can, let's add some triangle holes, just like that. And then what we could do is we can repeat the circular pattern again. Actually, you know what? Let's try a rectangular pattern. I don't think this is really going to work the way I imagined, but you know, let's try it for kicks, shall we? So you see, instead of going around a center, it's asking me how, you know, which way I want the pattern to go. How far do I want to stretch it that way? And how far I want to stretch it that way. So it's not really applicable to what we're doing here, but it's a thing. You know, if you ever have a need to make a rectangular pattern, you know, this is how it works. So instead of going around a middle, you'd say how many objects you want each way. So this is like this is a 3 by 3 pattern. You have 3 triangles, 1, 2, 3 going this way, 3 triangles, 1, 2, 3 going that way. So that's a thing too if you ever need to make a pattern like that. But let's go back to our circular pattern. Let's select our objects. Then let's select our center point. And let's add some objects here. Try that. Okay. So there we go. I'm done with this rim pattern, wheel pattern, whatever it is. So let's finish the sketch and extrude. Now when we extrude, we just highlight what's the area that's surrounding like all these holes. That way we have those holes in our wheel, just like that. And if we want our wheel to be round around the edges, just like, you know, a real tire, we can add fillets to both these edges and do that. Because if I do the fillet too much, then the holes get right into the tread. Which I guess that's kind of realistic depending on what kind of wheel you're talking about. But let's keep it like this. There you go. That's using a pattern to create a wheel like that. Now there's also different things. You can also create patterns with bodies. So, you know, let's try a rectangular pattern. Let's see what happens. So this pattern tool, it actually gives you options. Rectangular pattern, circular pattern, pattern on a path. I'm not sure what pattern on a path does. I imagine rectangular and circular patterns are similar to how they work in a sketch environment. So object type, it's going to be bodies, faces, features, components. We just have a body here. So we'll just select the body. An axis. I don't have really an axis to pick, so I'm just going to pick one of the ones here from the origin, just like what we see here. And that's where we can start making our pattern. Now, this is a rectangular pattern, just like how we were making one in the sketch environment. Look at all those wheels. And we can adjust how big we want to make it. At least 4 in that direction. And we can make it 4 in that direction. I think that's pretty neat. Now let's click OK. Now we have a lot of wheels. Which, I mean, you could. This is one way. If you wanted to 3D print these, you could set up a mesh file, a stereolithography file like this, then put in your slicer, and your slicer would slice all these, you know, to make it 3D printable code. But yeah, this is a thing. Let's go back to edit the rectangular pattern. I want to make it a. Okay, so it turns out I can't make it a circular pattern now. I want to try this as a circular pattern now. So I'm gonna just delete this feature. Let's try making a circular pattern like this. And let's select an axis. It's actually giving me the holes here to distribute this. Okay, that doesn't seem to actually work. At least I don't think it does. It's kind of weird because they kind of all show up there. Okay, let's select a different axis. What happens if we select this axis right here, this vertical one? Yeah, it's still the same thing. So the issue that we're running into is that because I'm selecting the axis right in the middle of the wheel, it's just trying to replicate the pattern on itself, which is not what we want to do. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just create a new sketch. just like that. And I'm going to make a point. I think I should just be able to make just a sketch point right there. I'll hit escape to make a circular pattern around. Let's try that. Now this is one of those things where I'm learning with you. So I know this was going to happen sometimes, but that's okay. Okay, that point, it won't let me select the point. Nope, okay. It definitely has to be an axis. So I kind of just want to delete that. Well, I don't have to delete it. I can just edit the sketch, delete the point. Yeah, I do want to delete the sketch, so because to make this axis work, I want to do it on a different plane. So let's delete that sketch. Let's create a new sketch, and I'm going to make it on a plane perpendicular to this wheel. And yeah, you know, again, that isn't going to work either, because even though the plane's perpendicular to the wheel, it's still telling me, well, actually, you know what? I think I can make this work. I'm going to get a line, just draw it over here. Tell me it's not just a regular shape. I'm just going to mark it as a center line. Click Finish Sketch. And now we can try this. So, circular pattern. We want this object, and we want on this axis. Hey, there we go. Check that out. So the axis has to be offset from the center of the object you want to create a pattern off of to work properly. Now notice that because I have this axis so close to my original object, that the bodies are overlapping each other. Now what happens if we go back to the sketch and move this? See, I just right-clicked on it, did move or copy. I moved it out this way, a little bit farther away. I'll hit OK and finish sketch. The pattern automatically adjusts itself so that the shapes are no longer overlapping themselves. They're all spread out. So that's the key thing. When you do a circular pattern, make sure your axis that you want to make your pattern around is far enough away from your original object so that you don't run into, so you're less likely to run into issues with overlapping. So those are some patterns as far as the 3D modeling aspect goes. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please be sure to click the like and subscribe buttons below. And remember, anyone who stops learning is old, whether at 20 or 80. Anyone who keeps learning stays young. So keep learning, keep designing, keep making, and be proud of your work.